There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. I've got with me today Meghan Marks of Twistlock. Meghan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. Glad to hear it. So we're going to be talking about how random acts of marketing do not pay the bills, which I think is brilliant and cannot wait to get into with you. But first, I'd love you to just give us a little bit of an introduction, background on yourself and what you and the folks at Twistlock have been up to these days.
Wonderful. Thank you. My name is Meghan Marks, and I lead the marketing team here at Twistlock. And Twistlock is a cloud-native security company. So what that means is we help companies secure the apps and workloads that they have running in the cloud. It's a very exciting space.
Yeah. It's stuff that I don't really know a lot about. So I'm excited to learn more. But today, though, what we're going to be talking about is, like I said, why random acts of marketing don't pay the bills and what you can do about it. First, can you just sort of describe for us, Meghan, what are some of these so-called random acts of marketing that peeved you to the extent that it made you think about, what to do about it and why you're so passionate about it?
Sure. I think the best example as a marketing leader is the email that comes in your inbox from someone in the company, whether it's another executive or it's someone in sales or some other organization, and they say, hey, Meghan, this thing is happening. It could be an event. It could be some kind of opportunity with a partner or some kind of content piece. Hey, Meghan, we need to do this. Can you have your team look at this as soon as possible? And those are the kinds of emails as a marketing leader you get all the time. There's a lot of chaos that can happen within a marketing organization. And those come from all different directions, not only just to the marketing leaders, but even to the folks in your team.
Right. And so that's why you said you feel so strongly about it. And what's one of the first things that you thought about that was like, look, hey, here's how we address this thing?
Well, for me, it's all about making sure that you build up a plan that satisfies the company needs, the sales goals, the marketing goals, and also has a strategic approach. So I'm a big believer in an integrated marketing approach. And currently, I use the Serious Decisions model. So they take a buyer needs-based approach where you say, why does someone buy my product? And you work out what those buyer needs are, and then you go design a marketing campaign around that. The reason why that's really helpful is that when those moments of chaos or, the interrupt-driven emails that come in to you or across your marketing team, your team has a way to say, hey, you know what? That's great. Let me share with you what we have going on, how we got to these campaigns, and then there's a clear way to say yes or no. It's very important to me that my team feels empowered to say no to the types of activities that they don't believe are going to drive our business forward.
Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense. And it's this sort of a holistic approach that you're taking to it where everybody is involved and understands, like you said, a clear plan for what to say yes or no to. In the absence of that, I can imagine it, like you said, it can be pretty chaotic. So you need a plan. How do you manage that internally to sort of get everyone on board and on the same page?
Another key piece of this is having stakeholder alignment. And I know that lots of marketers talk about internal selling and how you get alignment. When you have a plan and you take this buyer needs approach to campaign planning, that means that you're having conversations with customer success, with sales, with the partner teams, and then across marketing. And you're coming up together with these set of buyer needs that drive your campaigns, that are going to drive the activities that you do. So the alignment, rather than marketing coming up with a plan all by themselves and then running off and selling it to everybody, the alignment part of this is the working together to determine what those buyer needs are, which also makes you stop as a team and really figure out your customer experience and how does that all play into why people want to spend money with you.
Yeah, I think that I mean, I've seen this go both ways, right? I've seen it done right and I've seen it done wrong. And I talk on this show a lot about this idea of alignment. And I say, however corny people think it is, like I'd like to get past, marketing and sales alignment and right into marketing sales harmony, because I think that's the nirvana, right? For everyone, including the buyer, which is what you're talking about, to have the best experience. And I think if we just settle even for alignment, a lot of the time, everybody doesn't get what they want. And what you're talking about really gets at the heart of the fact that, it's not like we're trying to sell the idea that the goals of sales and the goals of marketing, need to be the same thing. They actually are. And all we're doing is sort of illustrating and highlighting that. And it sounds like that buyer first approach is one of the ways that you found sort of success with that. Talk though a little bit more about what those conversations are like, what the kind of pushback might be from like departments you mentioned, right? Customer success and sales, and what can make that alignment to this end more or less difficult.
I think taking a workshop approach, really getting the team involved and having conversations. And I don't even mean just at the leadership level. It's also important to involve. So let's say you're involving the sales organization. Involve someone that's at the rep level that is having the day-to-day life of a salesperson, not just the VP of sales. So making sure that you have this workshop approach where you have the conversations, you really go through the tough work to say, why does someone buy this product? So at Twistlock, we're big in the DevOps space. And when you talk about DevOps, what does that really mean? And why do people go after this DevOps approach, which is about people, process, and technology? Okay, well, let's stop for a second and let's talk to folks in our organization that work with our customers every day. And what is it really like in an organization? And what are the pains that they're feeling? And a lot of times today in marketing, I've seen organizations step back from a buyer-centric approach and they just get really fascinated by all of the trends that are happening in marketing. And I know I was telling you as we were chit-chatting at the beginning of this call that pretty much every single day I have somebody between LinkedIn or in my email or calling my phone trying to sell me something, whether it's some kind of MarTech, it's some kind of event, it's some kind of media program. And when I talk about random acts of marketing, that kind of chaos that's happening in the marketing world where there's so much going on all the time, you have to, as a marketing leader, find a way to turn the volume down on all of that noise and keep your team focused. And that is across marketing, but also across the leadership team in the company so that they understand why you're doing what you're doing. And all of that is to help you achieve numbers.
Right. And that's the next question that I wanted to ask you. And by the way, you guys, it's because this is a podcast, you can't see me, but I've been nodding and really trying not to give out a hearty yes as Meghan has been speaking. But she's preaching to the choir. You got to know that. But on the note that you just ended on, is in terms of the end goal for some folks involved in this is being the numbers. How do you know when you've got this right? Let's say you've identified those random acts of marketing and said, we're not going to do that. You've developed a passion about this alignment / harmony and decided on this integrated marketing approach. What are some, benchmarks or just some clues that you're on the right track? How do you know that you're doing it right?
So I'm a big believer in having a marketing model that rolls up into your financial model. So that's different for each company. Some companies, it's a percentage of pipeline. Some companies, it's a percentage of bookings. However you have that marketing model tied to your financial model, then you break it down from there into goals. So in my organization, we have weekly goals and monthly goals and quarterly goals. So then we know, hey, guess what? This week we needed to hit this many responses, this many leads, this much in pipeline, etc. And so you watch those. And I think it depends in each discipline of marketing, you watch it differently. So if you're in digital advertising, for example, you're looking on the daily multiple times a day. That's different than if you're running events where, you're going to drop a trade show lead. It's going to take time to mature before you know what happened with that. So I think having a really tight financial model as a company, tying the marketing model inside of it, I don't see that as a separate thing. I think too many times organizations, again, because they want to separate sales and marketing, well, that just doesn't scale. You have to be together. You have one number and you have to have a plan and metrics that meet that together. And to me, that's where you're going to see the return on investment for marketing.
For sure. And it's aligning, yes, the goals, but what it sounds like that you're talking about or describing is also aligning the expectations, right? You mentioned, the length of time it takes an events lead to mature versus a lead that comes from some other place. And so I think that, it's easier for sometimes tunnel visioned salespeople to have that alignment or harmony if they understand the types of expectations they should have for one lead source versus another, versus having it just one big pile of leads in their head and wanting them all to perform the same. I think that's one of the best ways to sort of foster that respect and that harmony, like we talked about.
Harmony.
So this is harmony. We're going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and sell and market at the same time.
Well, you can't make it alone. I mean, I have this conversation on a regular basis with my team. I do not believe there's a marketing team out there that can say, you know what, I'm amazing and I do it all by myself. That's not how it works. I often say that marketing is the heartbeat of the company. We really are, internally and externally, the people that are responsible for the brand, for the story, and for driving the company's growth forward. Well, then if that's the case, you better make sure you've got harmony and alignment across the organization, and especially in the people that are responsible every day for selling.
For sure. And I think what a lot of salespeople lose sometimes, it's like they just don't know what they don't know. I mean, what they think they want. Now, this is having spent some time in the B2B SaaS space and the very vibrant startup scene here in Austin, Texas. What a lot of times we as salespeople thought we wanted was, better leads or better insight into that sort of thing. But what we really were craving, what would really have made our jobs easier, is just a better understanding of what marketing is doing and how that plays into our day-to-day. Like how what they're doing, if we could just grasp it and respect it, would make our day-to-day easier. And I could talk about that until I'm blue in the face. It's something I'm super passionate about as well. I promise we would wax passionate about something today, Megan. And look, we have. But so some really good stuff that you've given us. I'm super excited for our listeners to get their feedback on this.
It's story time again, and we're talking about search engine marketing. Today, I'm going to tell you about a challenge within Pelican Case's B2B division. Pelican needed a partner with deep B2B expertise that could get them a massive bump in leads from their pay-per-click campaigns without increasing spend. After vetting a handful of agencies, they decided to go with Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency located in Southern California. Directive took on this challenge by refining their targeting and building custom landing pages for their advertising efforts. Once implemented, they saw a 208% increase in conversion rate. Needless to say, Pelican Cases met their initiative. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
One thing though, before we wrap this up, one thing that we've been doing here at Sweetfish, because we endeavor to be this free learning hub for folks in the B2B space or just in the business space in general, is we've been talking to folks on our show about what learning resources are really speaking to you right now.
Sure.
So what blogs, what podcasts, what books are you reading that are sort of informing your approach or just that you're really excited about these days?
Sure. I'll plug Dave Gearhart here. Dave's VP of Marketing over at Drift.
You know, Dave.
I am just obsessed with conversational marketing and really with all the content that he and his team are putting out there about the way, I think the buyer-centric thing we talked about, but also just making marketing really real and approachable and even human-centric. I mean, forget buyer-centric. I think they talk a lot about being human-centric and being real. So I'm very inspired by what Dave and his team are doing and have conversational marketing sitting on my desk right now.
That's what's up. You're a woman after my own heart. This has been so much fun. Hey, Meghan, I know people are going to want to connect with you, keep in touch, follow your success, and get more little nuggets about how to avoid random acts of marketing. How can folks connect with you?
Sure. Best way would be on LinkedIn. I'm Meghan with an H, Meghan, and then Mitchell Marks is my last name. And I'm at Twistlock. And, please follow at Twistlock. We've got a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah. I hope folks will. It's exciting stuff you guys are doing over there. This has been so much fun. Between me and you, the most fun I've had. Don't tell the rest of the guests. And I'm excited to have you on again, man. Thank you so much, Meghan. You have a good one.
Thank you. This has been a blast. Have a great one.
Bye.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.